You're born in the middle of a screaming political disaster. The year is somewhere around 1341 BC, and guess what? You hit the jackpot, the ultimate birthright lottery. While most newborns in Egypt are destined for a life of scraping copper or dying from a snake bite, you get to skip all that. Your crib is lined with gold. Your toys are carved obsidian. Your name is Tutankhamun, and you are the son of the Pharaoh. Congratulations, kiddo. But here's the problem with winning the royal lottery. It was a rigged lottery. Your father, Akhenaten, is not just any pharaoh, he's a religious revolutionary. He has ditched the 1,000-year-old pantheon of gods, Osiris, Isis, and the mighty Ammonius, and invented a new, strange, unpopular religion centered on one single god, the sun disk Aten. He moved the capital out of Thebes into a brand new, empty city called Amarna, just to worship this new deity. You, Tutankhamun, are born a symbol of this colossal failure. Your life is immediately complicated by a dark, crippling family secret. See, your mother and father? They were likely full-blooded siblings. Yes, you heard that right. Brother and sister. This wasn't romance. It was a political calculation, a desperate attempt to keep the royal bloodline pure. And guess what? This deeply messed up genetic situation is going to define your entire short, miserable life. While you're wrapped in the finest linens and carried everywhere, your body is a ticking time bomb of genetic flaws. You inherited every painful complication of your parents' incestuous union. Your problems didn't start with a bad decision. They started at a cellular level. You are destined to be the richest, weakest boy in the entire kingdom. Your childhood is a frantic, anxious blur. Playtime? Never heard of it. While other kids are busy messing around with dirt clods, you are drowning in lectures about religious dogma and being told which powerful priest to avoid looking in the eye. You're being groomed for a role that the entire country hates you for, simply because your name, Tutankhamun, is a reminder of the failed experiment. Then, around the age of 9, the inevitable happens. Your father dies. And suddenly, you are it. You just got the highest promotion in the world. You're dragged from the nursery, draped in gold, crowned with the double crown of Egypt, and told you are now the literal living god Horus on earth. You are the pharaoh. But let's be honest. Being 9 years old and the most powerful person on the planet? That's not power. That's a terrifying liability. You are a child CEO who isn't old enough to comprehend the balance sheet, surrounded by ambitious adults who see a golden opportunity. You don't rule Egypt. They let you think you do. Your palace is instantly filled with vultures, and 2 are circling particularly close. First, there's the old-school vizier. He's been around forever, knows every backroom deal, and is effectively the country's elder statesman. He's the smiling grandfather figure who tells you what to write and where to sit. He's running the day-to-day operations while keeping a very close eye on the throne. Then there's Hormheb, the general, the commander of the army. He controls the muscle. He's the terrifying guy who doesn't smile and reminds everyone that the stability of Egypt rests on his troops. You are sitting in a gold chair, and these 2 men, and Hormheb, are treating you like a ventriloquist's dummy. Your every word is their political decision. Your hand is guided by theirs to sign decrees you barely understand. You are the richest, most famous puppet in the history of the world. The first major decision you are forced to make is one of the most stressful political U-turns in history. You must publicly betray your own father. You inherited a bankrupt, religiously fractured mess. The priests of the old gods, specifically the cult of Ammonius in Thebes, have been seething for years. They hold the real power, and they demand you fix your father's mistake. So your advisors put a pen in your tiny hand and tell you to sign the Restoration Stela. This ancient inscription essentially marks the counter-revolution. You, the boy king, declare that your father's religion was a mistake, that the old gods are back, and that Ammonius is once again king of the gods. To solidify this ultimate act of political submission, you are forced to give up your own name. No more Tutankhamun. You are now Tutankhamun. You are trading a failed ideology for political survival. Imagine the sheer psychological pressure of firing God, then hiring him back, knowing that the priests you are trying to appease are still side-eyeing you, waiting for one single slip-up. As a final act, you must pack up the entire government and move it out of the failed city of Amarna. You abandon the home of your childhood, the city built for the Aten, and return to the traditional power centers of Thebes and Memphis. You are abandoning your own history to appease the mob. You just spent your early years as a symbol of radical chaos, And now you're spending your preteen years as a symbol of enforced political conformity. It's exhausting. And this is just the political pressure. The real suck? That's happening inside your body. You've fixed the religious mess. You've changed your name. You're sitting on the throne. You are technically the most powerful human being on the planet, the living god Horus on Earth. But here is the real suck. The gold mask hides a frail, aching body. You have to look like a statue of divine perfection. But underneath the royal robes, you are a sick, limping boy in constant agony. This is the tragic price you pay for your parents being siblings. Your life is defined by one single, crippling fact: you can barely walk. First, you have a severe clubfoot. This isn't just a slight limp, it's a painful deformity that makes every single step a monumental, excruciating effort. Imagine having the world's most powerful title, but your basic mobility is worse than the average Egyptian farmer's. You are carried everywhere on an ornate palanquin by strong servants, so the public sees you as divine and floating. The second you are alone, the facade crumbles. We know exactly how much this pain defined your life because of the sheer quantity of evidence found in your tomb. Howard Carter discovered over 130 walking canes tucked away with your burial goods. Think about that number. 130 canes. Some were ceremonial and gold-plated, but many others were clearly used daily and heavily worn. You are the ultimate symbol of power, but you need a whole mountain of sticks just to cross a room. The ultimate symbol of power is held up by 130 pieces of wood. But the pain gets worse. DNA analysis and CT scans reveal you also suffered from a serious bone disorder, likely Kohler disease, specifically in your foot. This means it wasn't just a limp, it was a constant, throbbing agony deep in your bones. The inbreeding didn't just give you status, it gave you chronic, debilitating pain. On top of the genetic flaws, you are constantly fighting an invisible enemy. Genetic tests found evidence of malaria parasites in your remains. So while you're wearing 20 pounds of gold jewelry, you're also fighting fever, chills, and weakness, brought on by a disease that a simple mosquito bite delivered. The great Pharaoh is brought low by a gnat. This physical reality means that everything is an immense struggle. You are expected to be an athlete, a warrior, and a dancer in ceremonies. But you are a teenager dealing with severe pain, genetic frailty, and likely hormonal imbalances that might have even caused issues like gynecomastia, male breast enlargement. You are a growing boy who has to wear minimal or revealing ceremonial clothing, all while dealing with self-consciousness, fever, and a bone-deep ache. You are required to embody perfection, but your own body is waging war against you. As you grow from a 9-year-old puppet to a young man approaching your 18th birthday, the pressure only intensifies. You might technically be old enough to rule, but you realize your royal life isn't freedom, it's a golden prison. You are constantly reminded that your wealth is compensation for your lack of freedom. The sheer opulence of your tomb, the gold, the artifacts, the magnificent death mask, did not come with 0 strings attached. That wealth is an extreme expectation of perfection that you couldn't meet in life. Every day is a demanding ceremonial grind. You must perform divinity. You must spend hours in state ceremonies, making offerings to the gods you were forced to restore. You have to endure endless repetitive rituals to reinforce the idea that you are a living god, while your advisors, I and Hormheb, are doing all the real governing. You're trying to run the most powerful empire in the world, but your biggest daily decision is likely being overridden by 2 men decades older than you. You have the title, but not the remote control. You know you should be leading military campaigns or making bold political strokes. But you can't, because the old guard won't let you near the real power, and frankly, you can barely lead a horse because of the crippling pain in your feet. Your life is a continuous loop of public theater and private agony. You are constantly surrounded by your court, which is filled with powerful people waiting for you to mess up. Your palace is not a home, it's a beautifully decorated, gold-plated death trap. Every family member, every cousin, every distant royal relative, they all harbor ambition. You ruled under the constant suffocating shadow of intrigue and assassination, and for good reason. As the previous story proved, betrayal often comes from within the royal family. You are the richest man alive. You are worshipped as a god. But you cannot walk without pain, you are plagued by disease, and you are trapped in a role designed by men who are just waiting for you to expire so they can seize the power you technically already possess. The only way out of this pressure cooker is death. And for you, that moment is coming faster than anyone expects. You've spent almost a decade being the world's most famous, most miserable puppet. You endured the clubfoot, the bone disease, the malaria, and the unrelenting political stress. You were finally becoming a young man, perhaps on the cusp of truly taking back the reins from I and Hormheb. And then, just like that, it was over. You die unexpectedly at the age of 18 or 19. Your life was cut short, just as you might have been ready to finally rule. The theories about your death are instant and dramatic. For decades, people suspected a shocking political murder, perhaps an assassination by a rival, pointing to supposed damage on your skull. You ruled your whole life under the threat of betrayal, so the theory felt right. But the tragic reality is far less dramatic, and far more insulting. Modern science suggests the cocktail of inherited misery finally won. The CT scans revealed that right before your death, you suffered a severely broken left leg. Given your weak immune system and chronic malaria, that break likely became catastrophically infected. The weakest part of your body, the leg that couldn't even walk properly, delivered the fatal blow. You weren't struck down by a powerful rival, you were killed by a combination of genetics and bad luck. Since your death was so sudden, there was no time to prepare the lavish, gigantic tomb befitting the Pharaoh, the Lord of the Two Lands. So, your staff had to scramble. You, the Golden Pharaoh, the man whose wealth was known across the world, were put into a tomb, KV-62, that was small and hastily converted. It was essentially the equivalent of a glorified last-minute closet conversion for your eternal resting place. Your burial goods were jammed in, your massive shrine just barely fit, and your funeral procession was rushed. Even in death, you couldn't get the respect you were owed. But the final insult comes later, courtesy of the vultures who finally got what they wanted. Your old advisor, I, briefly seizes the throne, followed by the terrifying General Hormheb. Hormheb decides to launch the ultimate smear campaign. He hates everything your father stood for, and he wants to wipe the entire era clean. He begins the process of erasing your memory from the monuments, the king lists, and the texts. Hormheb claims your reign as his own. He tries to scrub your name, Tutankhamun, from history like a bad accounting error. He wanted you forgotten. After all that suffering, all the pressure, all the pain, the clubfoot, the malaria, the shame of the restoration, your final reward was being erased by the very men who guided your hand. You were forgotten in your own time, a mere footnote. But here is the ultimate, final, mind-bending twist of your life. Your successors were too good at their job. They erased your memory so effectively that they forgot where they put you. Because your tomb was so small, so hastily arranged, and so effectively wiped from the records, it survived every tomb robber and every archaeological excavation for over 3,000 years. Your fame today? It's not because you were a great ruler. It's not because you led a great army. It's purely an accident of history. You only became the most famous pharaoh in human history because your enemies tried too hard to wipe you out. When Howard Carter cracked open that small forgotten tomb in 1922, the gold, the artifacts, and the magnificent death mask exploded onto the world stage. You became a pop culture legend, immortalized not by your rule, but by your treasure and the myth of the curse of the pharaoh that followed your discovery. The world remembers the gold mask. The world remembers the legend. But the real story? That of the limping boy king, the product of incest, the political puppet, and the victim of his own weak body. That boy only found true peace when the golden mask went on, forever hiding his true, tragic, and painful reality.